Madam Speaker, I rise to present the budget for the year 2016-17. I am presenting this budget when the global economy is in a serious crisis. Global growth has slowed down from 3.4% in 2014 to 3.1% in 2015. Financial markets have been battered and global trade has contracted. Amidst all these global headwinds, the Indian economy has held its ground firmly. Thanks to our inherent strength and the policies of the government, a lot of confidence and hope continues to be built around India. The International Monetary Fund has hailed India as the bright spot amidst a slowing global economy. The World Economic Forum has said that India's growth is extraordinarily high. We accomplished this despite unfavorable conditions and despite the fact that we inherited an economy of low growth, high inflation and zero investor confidence in the government's capability to govern. We converted these difficulties and challenges into an opportunity. कश्ती चलाने वालों ने जब हार के दी पतवार हमें, लहर लहर तूफान मिले और मौर मौज मझधार हमें, फिर भी दिखाया है हमने और फिर ये दिखा देंगे सबको कि इन हालात में आता है दरिया करना पार हमें. Let us look at our achievements compared to the last 3 years of the previous government when growth had decelerated to 6.3%. The growth of the GDP has now accelerated to 7.6%. This was possible notwithstanding the contraction of global exports by 4.4% compared to 7.7% growth in the world exports during the last 3 years of the previous government. CPI inflation was 9.4% during the last 3 years of the previous government. Under our government, the CPI inflation has come down to 5.4%, providing big relief to the public. This was accomplished despite 2 consecutive years of monsoon shortfall of 13% compared to the normal rainfall in the last 3 years of the previous government. Our external situation is robust. The current account deficit has declined from $18.4 billion in the first half of last year to $14.4 billion this year. It is projected to be 1.4% of the GDP at the end of this year. Our foreign exchange reserves are at the highest ever level of about $350 billion. Our initiatives in the last 21 months have not only placed the economy on a faster growth trajectory, but have bridged the trust deficit created by the previous government. We had to work in an unsupportive global environment, adverse weather conditions, and an obstructive political atmosphere. Madam, हमने आसमानी और सुल्तानी दोनों परिबलों से ने परेशान किया है. We believe in the principle that money with the government belongs to the people, and we have a sacred responsibility to spend it prudently and wisely for the welfare of our people, especially the poor and the downtrodden. We have increased our planned expenditure at the RE stage in 2015-16, in contrast to the usual practice of reducing it. We have achieved this despite adopting the 14th Finance Commission recommendations, which have increased the devolution to the states by 55%. We must now look ahead. The risk of global slowdown and turbulence are mounting. This complicates the task of economic management for India. It has 3 serious implications for us. First, we must strengthen the firewalls against these risks by ensuring macroeconomic stability and prudent fiscal management. Secondly, since foreign markets are weak, we must rely on domestic demand and Indian markets to ensure that the Indian growth does not slow down. And third, we must continue with the pace of economic reforms and policy initiatives to change the lives of our people for the better. We see these challenges as opportunities. The financial year 2015-16 and 16-17 have been and will be extremely challenging for the government expenditure. The 14th Finance Commission has reduced the centre's share of taxes to 58% from 68%. In the financial year 2015-16, we managed to improve upon the budgeted expenditure due to resource revenue buoyancy, notwithstanding the steep reduction in the central share of taxes. The next financial year, 2016-17, will cast an additional burden on account of the recommendations of the 7th Central Pay Commission and implementation of the Defence OROP. The government, therefore, has to prioritize its expenditure. We wish to enhance the expenditure in the farm and the rural sector, the social sector, the infrastructure sector, and provide for recapitalization of the banks. This will address those sectors which need immediate attention. Once the government discharges these priority obligations, it will then focus on areas which are of utmost priority to the government. While increasing the outlay of the various social sector programs, the government will undertake 3 major schemes to help the weaker sections of society. The Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana has already been announced to protect the farmer from adverse consequences of nature. The farmer will pay a nominal amount of insurance premium and get the highest ever compensation in the event of loss suffered. A health insurance scheme which protects 1/3 of India's population against hospitalization expenditure is being announced. The government is launching a new initiative to ensure that the BPL families are provided with cooking gas connections supported by a government subsidy. This will significantly improve the health of women and those BPL families who suffer adversely from the ill effects of chula cooking. The annual budget is also an opportunity for the government to outline its priorities for the year to come. The priority of the government is clearly to provide additional resource to vulnerable sections of the rural areas, social and physical infrastructure creation. The government shall endeavour to continue with ongoing reform program and ensure the passage of the Constitution Amendment to enable the implementation of the Goods and Services Tax, the passage of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Law, and other important reform measures which are pending before Parliament. Additionally, as I will elaborate later, we will undertake a significant reform such as the enactment of a law to ensure that all government benefits are conferred on persons who deserve it by giving a statutory backing to the Aadhaar platform, bringing significant changes in the legislative framework relating to the transport sector so as to free it from constraints and restrictions, incentivizing gas discovery and exploration by providing calibrated market freedom, enactment of a comprehensive law to deal with resolution of financial firms, providing a legal framework of dispute resolution in PPP projects and public utility contracts, undertaking important banking sector reforms and public listing of general insurance companies, and undertaking significant changes in the FDI policy. Our agenda for the next year, therefore, is to transform India in this direction. My budget proposals are therefore built on this transformative agenda with 9 different pillars. They include 1. Agriculture and farmers' welfare with a focus on doubling farmers' income in 5 years. 2. Rural sector with emphasis on rural employment and infrastructure. 3. Social sector including healthcare to cover all the under welfare and health services. 4. Educational skills and job creation to make India a knowledge-based and productive society. 5. Infrastructure and investment to enhance efficiency and quality of life. 6. Financial sector reforms to bring transparency and stability. 7. Governance and ease of doing business to enable people to realize their full potential. 8. Fiscal discipline, prudent management of government finances and delivery of benefits to the needy. 9. Tax reforms to reduce compliance burden with a faith in the citizenry. In each of these things, I shall outline specific policy measures and initiatives which would have a transformative impact on our economy and the lives of our people. Agriculture and farmers' welfare. Let me first take up agriculture and farmers' welfare. We are grateful to our farmers for being the backbone of the country's food security. We need to think beyond food security and give back to our farmers a sense of income security. Government will therefore reorient its interventions in the farm and non-farm sector to double the income of farmers by 2022. Our total allocation on agriculture and farmers' welfare is rupees 35,984 crores. We need to address issues of optimal utilization of our water resources, create new infrastructure for irrigation, conserve soil fertility with balanced use of fertilizer, and provide value addition and connectivity from farm to markets. Irrigation is critical for increasing agricultural production and productivity. Of the 141 million hectares of net cultivated area in the country, only 46% is covered with irrigation. The Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sicai Yojana has been strengthened and implemented in mission mode. 28.5 lakh hectares will be brought under irrigation under this scheme. Implementation of 89 irrigation projects under AIBP, which has been languishing, will be fast-tracked. This will help us to irrigate 80.6 lakh hectares. These projects require rupees 17,000 crores next year and rupees 86,500 crores in the next 5 years. We will ensure that 23 of these projects are completed before 31st March 2017. A dedicated long-term irrigation fund will be created in NABARD with an initial corpus of about rupees 20,000 crores to achieve all these. A total provision of rupees 12,517 crore has been made through budgetary support and market borrowings in 2016-17. Simultaneously, a major program for sustainable management of the groundwater resources has been prepared with an estimated cost of rupees 60,000 crores and proposed multilateral funding. At least 5 lakh farm ponds and dug wells in the rain-fed areas and 10 lakh compost pits for production of organic manure will be taken up by making productive use of allocations under MG Narega. The Soil Health Card scheme is now being implemented with greater vigor. Through this, the farmer gets information about the nutrient level of the soil and can make a judicious use of fertilizer. The target is to cover all 14 crore farm holdings by March 2017. Rupees 368 crore has been provided for the National Project of Soil Health and Fertility. Besides, 2,000 model retail outlets of fertilizer companies will be provided with soil and seed testing facilities during the next 3 years. Fertilizer companies will also co-market city compost, which increases the efficacy of chemical fertilizer. A policy for conversion of city waste into compost has been approved by the government under the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. To increase crop yield in rain-fed areas, which account for nearly 55% of the country's arable land, organic farming is being promoted. Towards this end, the government has launched 2 important schemes: the Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, which will bring 5 lakh acres under organic farming over a 3-year period. Second, the government has launched a value chain organic farming scheme called the Organic Value Chain Development in the northeastern region. The emphasis is on value addition so that organic produce grown in these parts finds domestic and export market. A total provision of 412 crores has been made under these schemes. Incentives are being given for enhancement of pulses production. Rupees 500 crore under the National Food Security Mission has been assigned to pulses. The number of districts covered has been increased to 622. A national level competition will be held among 674 Krishi Vigyan Kendras with a total prize money of 50 lakhs to improve the efficiency and performance of these Kendras. Access to market is critical for farmers. The government is implementing a unified agricultural market scheme which envisages a common e-market platform that will be developed in selected 585 regulated wholesale markets. Amendment to the APMC Acts of the states are a prerequisite to join this e-platform. I am happy to inform that 12 states have already amended their APMC Acts and are ready to come on board. More states are expected to join this platform in the coming year. A unified agriculture market e-platform will be dedicated to the nation on the birthday of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar on 14th April this year. 97 lakh metric tons of storage capacity was added to the central pool stock during the current year. we are implementing the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana as never before. The scheme has suffered because of underfunding. The allocation in 2012-13 and 13-14 was only 8,885 and rupees 9,805 crores respectively. We have substantially increased the allocation in the last 2 years, which will now be allocated rupees 19,000 crores in 16-17. ये जो 19,000 करोड़ है, this is only 60% of the cost, क्योंकि 40% states bear करेंगे. Together with the state share, totally about 27,000 crores will be spent on this yojana in 2016-17. Our goal is to advance the completion target of the program from 2021 to 2019 and connect the remaining 65,000 eligible habitations by constructing 2.23 lakh kilometers of roads. Accordingly, the pace of construction, which is currently 100 kilometers per day, compared to an average of 73.5 kilometers between 11 and 14, which will be substantially now stepped up. To support farmers in the aftermath of natural calamities, government has revised the norms of assistance under the National Disaster Response Fund in April 2015. Special focus has been given to ensure adequate and timely flow of credit to the farmers. Against the target of 8.5 lakh crores in 2015-16, the target of agricultural credit in 16-17 will be an all-time high of rupees 9 lakh crores. To reduce the burden of loan repayment on farmers, a provision of rupees 15,000 crores has been made in the budgetary estimates of 16-17 towards interest subvention. The government has also provided a path-breaking crop insurance scheme, namely Prime Minister's Fasal Bima Yojana. For effective implementation of the scheme, I have provided 5,500 crores in the budget of 16-17. We have to ensure that the benefit of MSP reaches farmers in all parts of the country.
Mr. Jaitley, if you want to, you can sit and then...
Thank you, Madam. I'll do that. We will have to ensure that the benefit of the MSP reaches the farmers in all parts of the country. 3 specific initiatives will be taken up in 2016-17 for this. First, the remaining states will be encouraged to take up decentralized procurement. Second, an online procurement system will be undertaken through the Food Corporation of India. This will usher in transparency, convenience to the farmers through a prior registration and monitoring of actual requirement. Third, effective arrangements have been made for pulses procurement. Farmers also take up other allied activities to supplement their farm income. To make dairy more remunerative to the farmers, 4 new projects will be taken up. First, the Pashudan Sanjeevani and Animal Welfare Wellness Program and a provision for the Animal Health Card, Nakul Swasthya Patra. Second, an advanced breeding technology. Third, creation of e-Pashudan Hut, an e-marketing portal for connecting breeders and farmers. And fourth, a national geomic center for indigenous breeds. These projects will be implemented at a cost of rupees 850 crores over the next few years. There has been a visible rise in the yield of honey from an average of 18 to 20 kilometers per box per annum in the year 2013-14 to 25 kilograms per box per annum in 2015-16. The total production of honey in the country has been increased from 76,150 metric tons in 14-15 to 86,500 metric tons. 90% of domestic honey is now exported. Rural area. After agriculture, I turn to the other segment, the rural economy. A sum of rupees 2.87 lakh crores will be given as grant in aid to the Gram Panchayats and municipalities as per the recommendations of the 14th Finance Commission. This is a quantum jump of 228% compared to the previous 5 years. The funds now allocated will translate to an average assistance of over rupees 80 lakhs per Gram Panchayat and rupees 21 crore per local urban body. These enhanced allocations are capable of transforming villages and small towns. Ministry of Panchayat Raj will work with the states and involving guidelines to actualize this. There is an urgent need to focus on areas of drought and rural distress. Every block in these distressed areas will be taken up as an intensive block under the Deen Dayal Antyodaya mission. Formation of self-help groups will be speeded to promote multiple livelihood. Cluster facilitation teams will be set up under MG Naregas to ensure water conservation and natural resource management. These instincts would also be taken up on a priority basis under the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sechai Yojana. A sum of rupees 38,500 crores has been allocated for Manrega in 2016-17. Madam, if this total amount is spent, this will be the highest ever amount spent in a year on Manrega. 300 Rurban clusters will be developed under the Shama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban mission launched by the Honorable Prime Minister recently. These clusters will incubate growth centers in rural areas by providing infrastructural amenities and market access for farmers. These will also expand employment opportunities for the youth. As of 1st April 2015, a total of 18,542 villages were not electrified. The Honorable Prime Minister, in his address to the nation on 15th August 2015, announced that the remaining villages will be electrified in the next 1,000 days. As on 23rd February 2016, 5,542 villages have been electrified. I think the Power Minister and the Ministry deserves to be congratulated for this. This is more than the total combined achievement of the previous 3 years. The government is committed to achieve 100% village electrification by 1st May 2018. Rupees 8,500 crores has been provided for the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana and integrated power development schemes. Swachh Bharat mission is India's biggest drive to improve sanitation and cleanliness, especially in rural India. This subject was very close to the heart of the father of the nation. For the first time since independence, the Parliament has had a comprehensive debate on sanitation. This has become a topic of discussion in almost every home. We have introduced ranking of urban areas in sanitation, which has resulted in constructive competition along towns and cities. Rupees 9,000 crores has been provided for the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. In order to continue this momentum, priority allocation from the centrally sponsored scheme will be made to reward villages that have become free from open defecation. We need to derive greater benefit from the demographic advantage. We need to spread digital literacy in rural areas. Of the 16.8 crore rural households, as many as 12 crore households do not have computers and are unlikely to have digitally literate people. We have approved 2 schemes to promote digital literacy: National Digital Literacy Mission and Digital Saksharta Abhiyan. We now plan to launch the Digital Literacy Mission scheme for rural India to cover around 6 crore additional households in the next 3 years. Details of this scheme will be spelled out separately. Modernization of land records is critical for dispute-free titles. The National Land Record Modernization Program has been revamped under the Digital India Initiative and will be implemented as a central sector scheme with effect from 1st April 2016. The revamped program will be built an integrated land transformation management system. 150 crores has been provided for this purpose. Panchayat Raj institutions need to develop governance capabilities to deliver sustainable goals. It has therefore been proposed to launch a new restructured scheme, namely the Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, for which rupees 655 crore has been set aside. For rural development as a whole, I have allocated rupees 87,765 crores in this budget. Madam, may I continue sitting down?
Right. Stand.
Social sector, including healthcare. When asked what he intends doing for regeneration of India, Swami Vivekananda had said, no amount of politics would be of avail until the masses in India are well educated, well fed and well cared for. I now proceed to present the key element of my proposal in the social sector. In our country, cooking gas cylinders were considered an upper middle class luxury. Gradually, it spread to the middle class, but the poor do not have access to cooking gas. Women of India have faced the curse of smoke during the process of cooking. According to the experts, having an open fire in the kitchen is like burning 400 cigarettes in an hour. Time has come to remedy this situation. We have decided to embark upon a massive mission to provide an LPG connection in the name of women members of poor households. I have set aside a sum of rupees 2,000 crore in this year's budget to meet the initial cost of providing these LPG connections. This would benefit about 1 crore 50 lakh households below the poverty line in the year 2016-17. The scheme will continue for at least 2 more years to cover a total of 5 crore BPS households. This will ensure universal coverage of cooking gas in the country. This measure will empower women and protect their health. It will reduce drudgery and time spent on cooking. It will also provide employment for rural youth in the supply chain of cooking gas. I want to take this opportunity to express our gratitude and appreciation of 75 lakh middle class and lower middle class households who have voluntarily given up their cooking gas subsidy in response to a call given by the Prime Minister. Their gesture is a matter of pride for the country. Catastrophic health events are the single most important cause of unforeseen out-of-pocket expenditure, which pushes lakhs of households below the poverty line every year. Serious illness of family members causes severe stress on financial circumstances of poor and economic weaker families, shaking the foundations of economic security. In order to help such families, the government will launch a new health protection scheme which will provide health cover up to rupees 1 lakh per family. For senior citizens of the age of 60 and above belonging to this category, an additional top-up package of rupees 30,000 will be provided. Quality medicines, making quality medicines available at an affordable price has been a key challenge. This will reinvigorate the supply of generic drugs. 3,000 stores under the Prime Minister Jan Aushadhi Yojana will be opened during 2016-17. Almost 2.2 lakh new patients of end-stage renal diseases get added in India every year, resulting in an additional demand for 3.4 crore dialysis sessions. With approximately 4,950 dialysis centers in India, largely in the private sector, concentrated in major towns, the demand is only half met. Each dialysis session costs around rupees 2,000, an annual expenditure of more than rupees 3 lakhs. Besides, most families have to undertake frequent trips for long distance to access dialysis services, incurring heavy travel cost and low wages. To address this situation, I propose to start a national dialysis service program. Funds will be made available through a PPP mode under the National Health Mission to provide dialysis service in all district hospitals. To reduce cost, I propose to exempt certain parts of dialysis equipment from basic customs duty excise CVD, and SAD. Scheduled caste and scheduled tribe entrepreneurs are beginning to show great promise in starting and running of successful businesses. The Prime Minister had given a call for promoting entrepreneurship amongst the SC/ST to become job providers rather than job seekers. I am happy to inform you that the Union Cabinet has approved the Stand Up India scheme to promote entrepreneurship amongst SC/ST and women. 500 crores has been provided for this purpose. The scheme will facilitate at least 2 such projects per bank branch, 1 in each category of entrepreneur. This will benefit at least 2.5 lakh entrepreneurs in this category. We are celebrating the 125th birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. This must become the year of the economic empowerment for SC/ST entrepreneurs. We have extensively interacted with Dalit India Chamber of Commerce and Industry on building an entrepreneurship ecosystem. It is proposed to constitute a national scheduled caste and scheduled tribe hub in the MSME ministry in partnership with industry associations. This hub will provide a professional support to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe entrepreneurs to fulfill the obligations under the central government procurement policy, adopting best practices and leverage the stand-up initiative. The scheme for welfare and skill development of minorities, such as multi-sectoral development program and Ustad, shall be implemented effectively. Education, skills and job creation. I would now like to highlight the steps proposed to be undertaken under the education, skill development and job creation, which is the 4th pillar of my budget proposals. After universalization of primary education through the country, we want to take the next big step forward by focusing on quality education. An increasing share of allocation under the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan will be allocated. Further, 62 new Navodaya Vidyalayas will be opened in the remaining uncovered districts over the next 2 years. It is our commitment to empower higher educational institutions to help them to become world-class teaching and research institutions. An enabling regulatory architecture will be provided to 10 public and 10 private institutions to emerge as world-class teaching and research institutions. This will enhance affordable access to quality education for ordinary Indians. A detailed scheme will be formulated. We have decided to set up a higher education financing agency with an initial capital base of rupees 1,000 crores. The HEFA will be a not-for-profit organization that will leverage funds for the market and supplement them with donations and CSR funds. These funds will be used to finance improvements in infrastructure in our top institutions and will be serviced through internal accruals. To help students, higher educational institutions and employees to access degree certificates of candidates, it is proposed to establish a digital depository for school leaving certificates, college degrees, academic awards and mark sheets on the Passion of Securities Depository. This will help to validate their authenticity, safe storage and easy retrieval. Skill development. Skill India mission seeks to capitalize our demographic advantages. Since its launch, the National Skill Development Mission has created an elaborate skilling ecosystem and imparted training of 76 lakh youth. We want to bring entrepreneurship at the doorstep of youth through the Parliamentary Kaushal Vikas Yojana. We have decided to set up 1,500 multi-skill training institutes across the country. I am setting aside an amount of rupees 1,700 crores for this initiative. We have decided to set up a national board for skill development certificate in partnership with industry and academia. We propose to further scale up the Parliamentary Kaushal Vikas Yojana to skill 1 crore youth over the next 3 years. Entrepreneurship education and training will be provided in 2,200 colleges, 300 schools, 500 government and ITIs, and 50 vocational training centers through a massive open online courses. Aspiring entrepreneurs, particularly from those remote parts of the country, will become connected to mentors and credit markers. Job creation. In order to incentivize creation of new jobs in the formal sector, the government will pay the Employees Pension Fund contribution of 8.33% for all new employees enrolling in EPFO for the first 3 years of their employment. This will incentivize employers to recruit unemployed persons and also bring them into the books, the informal employees. In order to channelize this intervention towards target groups of semi-skilled and unskilled workers, the scheme will be applicable to those with salary up to rupees 15,000 per month. I have made a budget provision of rupees 1,000 crore in this scheme. Further, Finance Bill 2016 proposes to broaden and liberalize the scope of employment generation incentives available under Section 80JJAA of the Income Tax Act. The deduction will be available not only to assessees deriving income from manufacturing of goods in a factory, but all assessees who are subject to statutory audit under this Act. Thus, a deduction of 30% of the emoluments paid to such employees can be claimed for 3 years. The minimum number of days for which they should be employed during the year is proposed to be reduced from 300 to 240. No deduction, however, will be admissible in respect of employees whose monthly emoluments exceed rupees 25,000. Also, no deduction will be admissible in respect of employees for whom the government is paying the entire EPS contribution. A national career service was launched in July 2015. Already 35 million job seekers have registered on this platform. We propose to make 100 model career centers operational by the end of 2016-17. We also propose to interlink state employment exchanges with national career service platform. Retail trade is the largest service sector employer in the country. Many more jobs are created in this sector provided the regulations are simplified. If shopping malls are kept open all 7 days of the week, why not small and medium shops? These shops should be given a choice to remain open on all 7 days of the week on voluntary basis. The interest of workers in terms of mandatory weekly holiday, number of working hours per day, of course, has to be protected. We propose to circulate a model shops and establishment bill which can be adopted by the state governments on a voluntary basis. 5. Infrastructure and investment. The fifth strong support pillar of this budget is to transform India is infrastructure and investment. In the road sector, there were more than 70 projects that were languishing at the beginning of the year due to legacy factors. Aggregate length of these projects was about 8,300 kilometers, involving 1 lakh crore investment. With exemplary and proactive intervention under the leadership of my colleague Shri Gadkari, nearly 85% of these projects have been put back on track. India's highest ever kilometers of new highways were awarded in 2015. At the same time, India's highest ever production of motor vehicles was achieved in 2015. This is a sign of growth of the economy, but it presents a challenge also. Therefore, we have speeded up the process of road construction. I have proposed to allocate a sum of rupees 55,000 crores in the budget for roads and highways. This will be further topped up by an additional 15,000 to be raised by the NHAI through bonds. Thus, the total investment in the road sector, including the Rural Gram Sadak Yojana allocation, would be rupees 97,000 crores during 2016-17. Together with the capital expenditure on railways, which Shri Suresh Prabhu has announced a few days ago, the total outlay on roads and rail in 2016-17 will be a mammoth 2,18,000 crores. We further expect to approve nearly 10,000 kilometers of national highways in 2016-17. This will be much higher than the 2 previous years. The pace of completion of road projects will also rise to 10,000 kilometers in 2016-17. In addition, nearly 50,000 kilometers of state highway will also be taken up for upgradation as national highway. The total outlay for infrastructure in the budget estimates of 2016-17 now stands at rupees 2,21,246 crores. Madam, this is an important announcement. Passenger traffic on our roads has been made more efficient for the benefit of the common man and the middle class. This is a totally unreformed sector which suffers from several impediments. Abolition of permit Raj will be our medium-term goal. Government will enact necessary amendments in the Motor Vehicles Act and open up the road transport sector in the passenger segment. An enabling ecosystem which will provide for the which will be provided for the states, which will have a choice of adopting the new legal framework. Entrepreneurs will be able to operate buses on various routes, subject to efficiency and safety norms. The major benefit of this game-changing initiative will be the provision for a more efficient public transport facilities, greater public convenience, new investments in moribund sectors, creation of new jobs for our youth, growth of startup entrepreneurs, and other multiplier effects. These measures will take us faster down the road to development. In 2015, India's major ports have handled the highest ever quality of cargo. We have also added the highest ever capacity in major ports. We have started a series of measures for modernizing ports and increasing their efficacy. The Sagarmala project has already been rolled out. We are planning to develop new greenfield ports both in the eastern and western coasts of India. The work of the national waterways is already being expedited. Rupees 800 crores has been provided for this initiative. In civil aviation sector, the government is drawing up an action plan for revival of unserved and underserved airports. There are 160 airports and airstrips with state governments which can be revived at an indicative cost of rupees 50 to 100 crores each. We will partner with the state governments to develop some of these airports for regional connectivity. Similarly, 10 out of the 25 non-functional airstrips with the Airport Authority of India will also be developed. Another major announcement. India is blessed with rich natural resources, including oil and gas. However, their discovery and exploitation has been below our potential. Imports of hydrocarbons occupy a larger share of India's imports. There is a situation of rising demand, near stagnation in production, and consequent rapid increase in imports. As a part of our drive towards self-sufficiency, the government is considering to incentivize gas production from deep sea, ultra-deep water, and high-pressure, high-temperature areas which are presently not exploited on account of higher costs and higher risk. A proposal is under consideration for new discoveries and areas which are yet to commence production. First, to provide calibrated market freedom, and second, to do so at a predetermined ceiling price to be discovered on the principle of landed price of alternate fuels. This will bring considerable amount investment in this segment. In the other segment of infrastructure, our government has achieved the highest coal production growth in over 2 decades, highest ever capacity in addition in generation, highest ever increase in transmission lines and in distribution of LED bulbs. In the power sector, we need to diversify the resources of power generation for long-term stability. The government is drawing up a comprehensive plan spanning over 15 to 20 years to augment investment in nuclear power generation. Budgetary allocation up to rupees 3,000 crore per annum, together with public sector investment, will be leveraged to facilitate the required investment for this purpose. To augment infrastructure spending further, government will permit mobilization of additional finances up to rupees 31,300 by the NHAI, PFC, REC, ERIDA, NABARD and Inland Water Authority through raising of bonds during 16-17. Our private sector plays a very important role in developing infrastructure, as many of which are implemented in the public-private partnership. I would like to announce 3 initiatives to reinvigorate this sector and resolve future and pending issues. 1. A public utility resolution of disputes bill will be introduced during 2016-17 to streamline an institutional arrangement for resolution of disputes in infrastructure relating to construction contracts, PPP and public utility contracts. 2. Guidelines for renegotiation of PPP concession agreements will be issued, keeping in view the long-term nature of such contracts and the potential uncertainties of the real economy without compromising transparency. 3. A new credit rating system for infrastructure which gives emphasis to various inbuilt credit enhancement structures will be developed instead of relying on standard perception risks which often result in mispriced loans. These, Madam, I hope, will expedite the commencement of some of the stalled projects. I would like to announce further reforms in our FDI policy. The changes proposed are in the area of insurance and pension, asset reconstruction companies, stock exchanges, etc. Details of these changes are given in an annexure to the budget speech. The duty drawback scheme has been widened and deepened to include more products and countries. The government will continue to take measures to support the export sector. Our FDI policy has also to address the requirements of the farmers and our food processing industry. A lot of fruits and vegetables grown by our farmers either do not fetch the right price or fail to reach the market. Food processing industry and trade should be more efficient. 100% FDI will be allowed through FIPB route in the marketing of food products produced and manufactured in India. I think this will give an impetus to the food processing ministry to enhance this sector. This will benefit the farmers, give impetus to the food processing industry and create vast employment opportunities. A new policy of management of government investment in public sector enterprises, including disinvestment and strategic sale, has been approved. We have to leverage the assets of the CPSEs for generation of resources for investment in new projects. We will encourage CPSEs to divest individual assets like land, manufacturing unit to release their asset value for making investments in new projects. The Niti Aayog will identify the CPSEs for this strategic sale. We will adopt a comprehensive approach for efficient management of the government investment in CPSEs by addressing issues such as capital restructuring, dividend bonus shares, etc. The Department of Disinvestment is being renamed the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, the DIPAM. Financial sector reforms. A vibrant financial sector is of critical importance to the growth of every economy. In my last two budgets, I had announced several measures in this regard. I would now like to announce the following initiatives. A systematic vacuum exists with regard to the bankruptcy situation in financial firms. A comprehensive code on resolution of financial firms will be introduced as a bill in Parliament in 2016-17. This code will provide a specialized resolution mechanism to deal with bankruptcy situations in banks, insurance companies and financial sector entities. The code, together with the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2015, when enacted, will provide a comprehensive resolution mechanism for our economy. The RBI Act 1934 is being amended to provide a statutory basis for the monetary policy framework and a policy committee through the Finance Bill 2016. The committee-based approach will add a lot of value and transparency to the monetary policy decisions. A financial data management center under the aegis of Financial Stability Development Council will be set up to facilitate integrated data aggression and analysis in the financial sector. To improve greater retail participation in government securities, RBI will facilitate their participation in the primary and secondary markets through stock exchanges and access to NDS-OM trading platforms. New derivative products will be developed by SEBI in the commodity derivatives market. To facilitate deepening of the corporate bond market, a number of measures will be undertaken, details of which are given in Annexure 2 to the budget speech. An enactment of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code will provide a major boost to the development of the corporate bond market. To tackle the problem of stress assets in the banking sector, asset reconstruction companies have a very important role. I therefore propose to make necessary amendments in the Sarfasi Act to enable the sponsorer of an ARC to hold up 100% stake in the ARC and permit non-institutional investors to invest in the securitization receipts. In the recent past, there have been instances of people in various parts of the country being defrauded by illicit deposit-taking schemes. The worst victims of these schemes are poor and the financially illiterate. The operation of such schemes are often spread across many states. I therefore propose to bring a comprehensive central legislation in 2016-17 to deal with the menace of such schemes. I propose to amend the SEBI Act 1992 in the coming year to provide for more number of benches of the Security Appellate Tribunal. As honourable members are well aware, the strength of the financial sector is dependent on a strong and well-functioning banking system. We have already a comprehensive plan for revamping the public sector banks, Indradhanush, which is under implementation. We are now confronted with a problem of stress assets in public sector banks, which is a legacy of the past. Several steps have already been taken in this regard. We are not interfering in the lending and personal matters of the bank. Structural issues have been addressed in various sectors like power, coal, highways, sugar and steel. The banks are putting in special effort to effect recoveries and focus on reviving stalled projects. To support the banks in this effort, as well as to support credit growth, I have proposed an allocation of rupees 25,000 crores in the budget estimate of 16-17 towards recapitalization of the public sector banks. If additional capital is required by these banks, we will find resources for doing so. We stand solidly behind these banks. Our public sector banks will be strong and competitive. The Banking Board Bureau will be operationalized during 2016-17 and a road for consolidation of public sector banks will be spelled out. The process of transformation of the IDBI has already started. Government will take it forward and also consider the option of reducing its stake below 50%. For speedier resolution of stress assets, the Debt Recovery Tribunal will be strengthened with focus on empowering the existing infrastructure, including computerized processing of court cases to support reduction in the number of hearings and faster disposal of cases. The Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana was launched for the benefit of the bottom pyramid of entrepreneurs. Banks and NBFCs, MFIs have reported the amount sanctioned under the PMMY has reached about rupees 1 lakh crore to cover 2.5 crores borrowers by early February this year. For the coming year, Madam, I propose to increase the target next year to rupees 1,80,000 crores. To provide better access to the financial system services, especially in rural areas, we will undertake a massive nationwide rollout of ATMs, micro ATMs in post offices over the next 3 years. Public shareholding in government-oriented companies, it means to ensure higher levels of transparency and accountability. To promote this objective, the general insurance companies owned by the government will be listed in stock exchanges. Government and the ease of doing business. Our government is giving an unparalleled emphasis to the good governance with special focus on process reforms. IT-enabled government processes. The whole idea is to remove irritants from public in their interface with government agencies. A task force has been constituted for rationalizing the human resource in various ministries. A comprehensive review and rationalization of autonomous bodies is also underway. A critical component of minimum government and maximum governance is to ensure targeted disbursement of government subsidies and financial assistance to the actual beneficiaries. Public money should reach the poor and the deserving without any leakage. 3 specific initiatives are proposed to achieve this objective. First, we will introduce the targeted delivery of financial and other subsidy benefit services by using the Aadhaar framework. The bill will be introduced in the current budget session of Parliament. The Aadhaar number or authentication shall, however, not confer any rights of citizenship or domicile. A social security platform will be developed for using Aadhaar to accurately target beneficiaries. This will be a transformative piece of legislation which will benefit the poor and the vulnerable. Secondly, we have already introduced a direct benefit transfer in LPG. Based on this successful experience, we propose to introduce a DBT on a pilot basis for fertilizer in a few districts of the country with a view to improving the quality of service delivery to farmers. Third, of a total of 5.35 lakh fair price shops in the country, automation facilities will be provided to 3 lakh fair price shops by March 2017. We have to bring transparency and efficiency in government procurement of goods and services. The Director General of Supplies and Disposal will establish a technology-driven by the government to remove the difficulties and impediments to ease the doing of business. We will introduce a bill to amend the Companies Act in the current budget session of Parliament. The bill would also improve enabling environment for startups. The registration of companies will also be done in 1 day. Monitoring of prices of essential commodities is a key element of good governance. A number of measures have been taken to deal with the problem of abrupt increase in prices of pulses. Government has approved the creation of a buffer stock of pulses through procurement at a minimum support price and a market price through price stabilization fund. The fund has been provided with a corpus of rupees 900 crores to support the market intervention. Madam Speaker, for good governance, we have to capitalize on country's unity in diversity. To strengthen the understanding of each other, it is proposed to create a closer engagement between states and districts in a structured manner. Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat program will be launched to link states and districts, an annual program that connects people through exchanges in areas of language, trade, culture, travel and tourism. We shall do this through mutual agreement with participating states and districts. In 2017, the country will celebrate the 70th anniversary of our independence. We will chalk out the milestones for nation's journey beyond the 70th year anniversary of independence. Dr. Toynbee, the historian, had observed that a chapter which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending. My belief is that the year 2017 will unfold the great historian's dream. Our scheme of Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat is a part of this mission. Madam, let me now elaborate on the fiscal situation in the context of the budget of 2016-17. While preparing this budget, I have received conflicting suggestions about the FRBM roadmap. Different schools of thought have argued either in favor of fiscal consolidation and stability or for a less aggressive consolidation and for boosting growth. I have weighed the policy option and decided that prudence lies in adhering to fiscal targets. Consequently, the fiscal target in the revised estimate of 2015-16 and the budget estimate of 2016-17 have been retained at 3.9% and 3.5% of GDP respectively. While doing so, I have ensured that development agenda has not been compromised. The total expenditure in this budget for 2016-17 has been projected at rupees 19.78 lakh crores, consisting of rupees 5.50 lakh crore under plan and 14.28 lakh crores under non-plan. The increase in planned expenditure is in the order of 15.3% over the current year's BE. Plan allocation has been given special emphasis to sectors like agriculture, irrigation, social sector, including health, women and child development, welfare of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, minorities, infrastructure, etc. Continuing with the policy of higher empowering states, the total resources being transferred to the states are 99,681 crores, more than RE of 15-16, and rupees 2,46,024 crores, more than the actuals of 2014-15. Details of allocations in certain vital sector schemes and transfer to the states are given in Annexure 3 to the speech. This is the last year of the 12th plan. Successive committees have questioned the merit in having a plan and a non-plan classification of the government expenditure. A broad understanding over the years has been that planned expenditures are good and non-planned expenditures are bad. This results in a skewed allocation in the budget. We need to correct this and give greater focus to revenue and capital classification of government expenditure. We have therefore decided that the non-plan classification will be done away with from fiscal 2017-18. The Finance Ministry will closely work with the state finance departments and align central state budgets in this regard. To improve the quality of government expenditure, every new scheme sanctioned by the government will have a sunset date and an outcome review. A redeeming feature of this year's budget is that we have improved upon the revenue deficit target from 2.8% to 2.5% of GDP in the RE of 2015-16. The FRBM Act has been under implementation for more than a decade. Both central and state governments have made significant gains from the implementation of this act. There is now a school of thought which believes that instead of a fixed number as a fiscal target, it may be better to have a fiscal target range as the target, which would give necessary policy space to the government to deal with dynamic situations. There is also a suggestion that fiscal expansion or contraction should be aligned with credit contraction or expansion respectively in the economy. While remaining committed to fiscal prudence and consolidation, a time has come to review the working of the FRBM Act, especially in the context of uncertainty and volatility, which have become the new norm of the global economy. I therefore propose to set up and constitute a committee to review the implementation of the FRBM and give its recommendation on the way forward. As honourable members are aware, the 7th Pay Commission has submitted its report. Following the past practice, a committee has been constituted to examine the report and give its recommendations. In the meanwhile, I have made necessary interim provisions in the budget. We have rationalized and restructured more than 1,500 central planned schemes into about 300 central sector and 30 centrally sponsored schemes. This will avoid overlapping of expenditure. I reiterate that I remain committed to the financial requirements arising out of the economic packages that have been announced by our government, and also commitments emanating from the reorganization of the states. I have also allocated an initial sum of rupees 100 crores each for celebrating the birth anniversary of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay and the 350th birth anniversary of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Tax reforms. I shall now turn to tax reform, which is elaborated in Part B of my budget scheme. Madam Speaker, I shall now present my tax proposals. The government acknowledges the role of the taxpayer in the nation building. Each rupee of the tax contributes towards the government's effort to provide a better infrastructure, rural revival, and social well-being. Taxation is a major tool to the government for removing poverty and inequality from the society. The posterity will not forgive us if we do not use this opportunity in this perspective. The thrust of my tax proposals this year falls in 9 categories. 1. Relief to small taxpayer. 2. Measures to boost growth and employment generation. 3. Incentivizing domestic value additions to help make in India. 4. Measures for moving towards a pension society. 5. Measures for promoting affordable housing. 6. Additional resource mobilization for agriculture, rural economy, and clean environment. 7. Reducing litigation and providing certainty in taxation. 8. Simplification and rationalization of taxation. 9. Use of technology for creating accountability. Relief to small taxpayer. In order to lessen the burden on individuals with income not exceeding 5 lakhs, I propose the ceiling of tax rebate under Section 87A from 2,000 to rupees 5,000. There are more than 2 crore taxpayers in this category who will get a relief of rupees 3,000 in their tax liability. The people who do not have any house of their own and do not get any house rent allowance from their employer today get a reduction of rupees 24,000 per annum in their income to compensate them for the rent they pay. I propose to increase the limit of deduction in respect of rent paid under Section 80GG from rupees 24,000 per annum to rupees 60,000 per annum, which should provide relief to those who live in rented houses. The next, madam, is important. Presumptive taxation schemes under Section 44AD of the Income Tax Act is available for small and medium enterprises, that is non-corporate businesses, with a turnover or gross receipts not exceeding 1 crore rupees. At present, 33 lakh small business people avail of this scheme, which frees them from the burden of maintaining detailed books of account and getting audits done. I propose to increase the turnover limit under this scheme to rupees 2 crores, which will bring big relief to a category of assessees in the MSME category. That is to say, anyone with a turnover in business of 2 crores, there will be a presumptive income of 8%. I also propose to extend the presumptive income taxation scheme to all professionals with gross receipts up to 50 lakhs, with a presumption of profit being 50% of their gross receipts. Madam, this for small businesses and all professionals, this will bring tremendous ease in their taxation matters. Measures to boost growth and employment generation. I had in my last budget speech mooted a proposal to reduce the rate of corporate tax from 30 to 25% over a period accompanied by rationalization of removal of various tax exemptions and incentives. In any case, the effective rate of tax paid by the companies comes to an average of 24.67 because of various exemptions which they are availing of. A phasing out plan of these exemptions and tax incentives was placed in the public domain. We have received a large number of constructive suggestions. The final phasing out of exemptions is given in an annexure to the speech. The highlights are as follows. The accelerated depreciation provided under the Income Tax Act will be limited to a maximum of 40% with effect from 1st April 2017. The benefit of deductions of research would be limited to 150% from 1st April 17 and 100% from 1st April 2020. The benefit of Section 10AA to a new SEZ will be available to units which commence activity before 31/3/2020. The weighted deduction under 35 CCD for a skill development will continue up to 1/4/2020. The reduction in corporate tax has to be calibrated with additional revenue expected from the incentives being phased out. The benefits of phasing out of exemptions are available to the government only gradually. In the first phase, therefore, I propose the following two changes in the corporate income tax rates. A, the new manufacturing companies which are incorporated on or after 1st March 2016, as proposed to be given an option of being taxed at 25% per surcharge plus cess, provided they do not claim any profit-linked investment-linked deduction and do not avail of any investment allowance and accelerated depreciation. Madam, new manufacturing companies will also bring jobs. I also propose to lower the corporate income tax rate for the next financial year of relatively small enterprises companies with turnovers not exceeding 5 crores in the financial year ending March 2015 to 29% per surcharge plus cess. Startups generate employment, bringing innovation, and are expected to be key partners in Make in India program. I propose to assist their propagation through 100% deduction of profits for 3 out of the 5 years for startups set up during April 2016 to March 2019. MAT will apply in such cases. Capital gains will not be taxed if invested in regulated or notified fund of funds and by individuals in notified startups for which they hold majority shares. Research is a driver of innovation, and innovation provides a thrust to economic growth. I propose a special patent regime with 10% tax on income from worldwide exploitation of patents developed and registered in India. In order to get more investment in the asset reconstruction companies, which plays a very important role in the resolution of bad debts, I propose to provide a complete pass-through of income tax to securitization trusts, including trust of ARCs. The income will be taxed in the hands of the investor instead of the trust. However, trusts will be able to deduct tax at source. The period for getting long-term capital gain regime in the case of unlisted companies is proposed to be reduced from 3 to 2 years. Non-banking financial companies will be eligible for deduction to the extent of 5% of their income in respect of provision for bad and doubtful debts. For determining the residency of foreign company on basis of place of effective management is proposed to be deferred by 1 year. I would like to reiterate our commitment to implement the general anti-avoidance rules from 1/4/2017. In order to meet our commitments to the BEPS initiative of the OECD and G20, the Finance Bill 2016 includes provisions for requirement of country-by-country reporting for companies with a consolidation revenue of more than euros 750 million. I propose to exempt service tax on services provided under the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushalya Yojana and services provided by assessing bodies empaneled by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. I propose to exempt service tax on general insurance service provided by under the Nirmaya Health Insurance Scheme, Nirmaya, launched by the National Trust for Welfare of Persons with autism, cerebral palsy, mental retardation and multiple disability. To promote the use of refrigerated containers, I propose to reduce the basic custom duty by the excise duty to them from 5% to 6%. As a number of assistive devices, rehabilitation aids and other goods for differently abled persons attract nil basic custom duty, accepting the suggestion that came from the Mr. Rahul Gandhi, I propose to exempt this exemption to the burial paper also. Customs and excise duty structures plays an important role in incentivizing domestic value addition towards Make in India campaign of our government. In line with that, I propose to make suitable changes in the customs and excise duty rates of certain inputs, raw materials, intermediaries, components and certain other goods, and simplifying procedures as to reduce cost and improve competitiveness of domestic industry in sectors like information technology, hardware, capital goods, defense production, textiles, mineral fuels, mineral oils, chemicals, petrochemicals, paper, paperboard and newsprint, maintenance, repair and overhauling of aircrafts and ship repair. Details of these changes are given in annexure to the budget speech. Measures for providing a pension society. Pension schemes offer financial protection to senior citizens. I believe that the tax treatment should be uniform for defined benefits and defined contribution pension schemes, pension plans. I propose to make withdrawal up to 40% of the corpus at the time of retirement tax exempt in the case of the National Pension Scheme. In case of superannuation funds and recognized provident funds, including EPF, and the same norm of 40% of the corpus to be tax-free will apply in respects of corpus created out of contribution made after 1/4/2017. Further, the annuity fund which goes to the legal heir after the death of the pensioner will not be taxable in all three cases. Also, we are proposing a monetary limit for contribution of the employer in recognized provident and superannuation fund at 1.5 lakh per annum for taking the tax benefit. I propose to exempt from service tax the annuity services provided by the National Pension System and the services provided by the EPFO to its employees. I also propose to reduce service tax on single premium annuity insurance policies from 3.5% to 1.4% of premium paid in certain cases. Measures to promote affordable housing. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana embodies the assurance of the government to address the housing needs of all, and more specifically the poor, in a time-bound manner. Construction of housing creates considerable employment opportunities as well. In order to fuel activity in the housing sector, I propose to give 100% deduction for profits to an undertaking from a housing projects for flats up to 30 square meters in the 4 metro cities and 60 square meters in other cities, approved during June 2016 to March 2019 and is completed within 3 years of approval. Minimum alternative tax will, however, apply to these undertakings. For the first home buyers, I propose to give a deduction for an additional interest of rupees 50,000 per annum for loans up to 35 lakhs sanctioned during the next financial year, provided value of the house does not exceed 50 lakhs. Another proposal to stimulate housing activity is to facilitate investment in the real estate investment trusts. I propose that any distribution made out of the income of the SPV by the REITs or the InvITs having specified shareholding will not be subject to the dividend distribution tax. It is proposed to exempt service tax on construction of affordable housing up to 60 square meters under any scheme of central or state government, including the PP scheme. I also propose to extend excise duty exemptions presently available to concrete mix manufactured at sites for the use of constructions at such sites to ready mix concrete. Additional resource mobilization for agriculture, rural economy and for a clean environment. Dividend distribution tax uniformly applies to all investors irrespective of their income slabs. This is perceived to distort the fairness and the progressive nature of taxes. Persons with relatively higher income can bear a higher tax cost. I therefore propose that in addition to the DDT paid by the companies, tax at the rate of 10% of the gross amount of dividend will be payable by recipients, that is an individual, HUF and firm, receiving dividend in excess of 10 lakh rupees per annum. I also propose to raise the surcharge from 12% to 15% on person other than companies, firms, cooperative societies having an income of over rupees 1 crore. I also propose to collect at source at the rate of 1% on purchase of luxury cars exceeding a value of 10 lakhs and purchase of goods and services in cash exceeding rupees 2 lakhs. For compliant taxpayers with resources, this levy will not only advance collection of taxes when expenditure is incurred, but it provides data to the tax authorities to identify the persons who incur such expenditure but may be missing from the tax base. Farmers and notified class of persons will have an option of giving a form by which TCS will not be charged. Rate of security transactions tax in the case of options is proposed to be increased from 0.017 to 0.05%. In order to tap tax on income accruing to foreign e-commerce companies from India, it is proposed that a person making a payment to a non-resident trust who does not have a permanent establishment exceeding in aggregate 1% in the year as consideration on online advertisement will withhold tax at 6% gross amount paid as equalization levy. The levy will only apply to B2B transactions. I propose to impose a cess called the Krishi Kalyan cess, that is 0.5% on all taxable services, proceeds of which would be exclusively used for financing initiatives relating to the improvement of agriculture and welfare of farmer. The cess will come into force with effect from 1st of June 2016. Input tax credit on this cess will be available for payment of this cess. The pollution and the traffic situation in Indian cities is a matter of concern. I propose to levy an infrastructure cess of 1% on small petrol, LPG and CNG cars, 2.5% on diesel cars of certain capacity, and 4% on other high engine capacity vehicles and SUVs. Madam, the exemptions the exemption rate of duty which existed on parts of environment-friendly vehicles, which expires on 31st March this year, I am planning to continue that. I propose to impose an excise duty of 1% without input tax credit or 12.5% with input tax credit on articles of jewelry, excluding silver jewelry, other than studded with diamonds and some other precious metals, with a higher exemption and eligible limits of rupees 6 crores and 12 crores respectively. Necessary steps will be taken to enable the new taxpayers to comply with this levy without any difficulty. I propose to change the excise duty on branded ready-made garments and made-up garments of textiles with a retail price of above rupees 1,000 from nil to an input tax credit of 6%/12.5 with input credit to 2% without input tax credit or 12% with input tax credit. I propose to rename the clean energy cess levied on coal, lignite and peat as clean environment cess and simultaneously increase its rate from rupees 200 per ton to rupees 400 per ton. To discourage consumption of tobacco and tobacco products, I propose to increase excise duty on various tobacco products other than BDs by about 10 to 15%. I propose to amend the finance bill so as to declare assignment by the government of the right to use radio frequency spectrum, in its subsequent transfer, a service to make it clear that the assignment of the right to use the spectrum is service leviable to service tax and not sale of intangible goods. Reducing litigation and providing certainty in taxation. Madam, we are moving towards a lower tax regime with non-litigious approach. Thus, while compliant taxpayers can expect a supportive interface with the department, tax evasion will be countered strongly. Capability of a tax department to detect tax evasion has improved because of enhanced access to information and availability of technology-driven analytical tools to proceed such information. I want to give an opportunity to the earlier non-compliant to move to the category of being compliant. I propose a limited period compliance window for domestic taxpayers to declare undisclosed income or income represented in any form of asset and clear up their past transgressions by paying tax at 30%, a surcharge of 7.5% and a penalty of 7.5%, which is a total of 45% of the undisclosed income. There will be no scrutiny or inquiry regarding the tax declared in these declarations under the Income Tax Act or the Wealth Tax Act, and declarations will have immunity from prosecution. Immunity from Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 1988 has also been proposed subject to certain conditions. The surcharge levied 7.5% of undisclosed income will be called Krishi Kalyan surcharge and will be used for agriculture and rural economy. We plan to open the window under the income tax disclosure scheme from 1st June to 30th September 2016 with an option to pay the amount due within 2 months of the declaration. Our government is fully committed to removing black money from the economy. Having given one opportunity for those who evaded income to declare it once, we would like to focus all our resources on bringing back people with black money to the books. Litigation is a scourge on the tax-friendly regime and creates an environment of distrust in addition to increasing the compliance cost of taxpayers and administrative cost to the government. There are about 3 lakh tax cases pending before the first appellate authority with disputed amount of rupees 5.5 lakh crores. In order to reduce this number, I propose a new dispute resolution scheme. A taxpayer who has an appeal pending as of today before the Commissioner Appeals can settle his case by paying disputed tax and interest up to the date of assessment. No penalty in respect of income tax cases with disputed tax up to rupees 10 lakhs will be levied. Cases where disputed tax exceeds 10 lakhs will be subjected only to 25% of the minimum of the imposable penalty for both direct and indirect taxes. Any pending appeal against a penalty order can be settled by paying 25% of the minimum amount of imposable penalty. Certain categories of persons, including those who are charged with criminal offences under the specified acts, are proposed to be barred from availing of this scheme. I had in my budget scheme of July 2014 assured that this government would not retrospectively create a fresh taxation liability. I had hoped then that cases pending in various courts and other legal fora relating to certain retrospective amendments undertaken to the Income Tax Act 1961 through the Finance Act of 2012 would soon reach their logical conclusion. I would like to reiterate that we are committed to provide a stable and predictable taxation regime. We will not resort to such an amendment in future. I had also announced a high-level committee which would oversee any fresh case where the assessing officer proposes to assess or reassess the income in respect of indirect transfers by applying the retrospective amendment. In order to allay any fears of tax adventurism, the committee will now be chaired by the Revenue Secretary and consist of the chairman, CBDT, and an expert from outside. The committee will effectively oversee the implementation of this assurance. In order to give an opportunity for past cases which are ongoing under the retrospective amendment, I propose a one-time scheme for dispute resolution for them, in which, subject to their agreeing to withdraw their pending appeals lying in any court or tribunal or any proceeding for arbitration, mediation, etc. under BIPA, they can settle the case by paying the tax areas, in which case the liability of interest and penalty shall be waived. Levy of heavy penalty for concealment of income has over the years resulted in a large number of disputes, despite a number of decisions of the Apex Court on interpretation of statutory provisions and principles guiding the imposition of the penalty. At present, the income tax officer has a discretion to levy penalty at rupees 100% to 300% of the tax sought to be evaded. I propose to modify the entire scheme of penalty by providing a different categories of misdemeanors with graded penalty, and therefore substantially reducing the discretionary power of the tax officer. The penalty rates will now be 50% of the tax in the case of underreporting of income and 200% in tax where there is misreporting of fact. Remission of penalty is also proposed in certain circumstances where taxes are paid and appeal is not filed. Another issue which has led to considerable number of disputes is the quantification of disallowance of expenditure relating to exempt income under Section 14A of the Income Tax Act. I propose to rationalize the formula in Rule 8D governing such quantification. The said rule is being amended to provide that disallowance will be limited to 1% of the monthly average value of investment yielding exempt income, but not exceeding the actual expenditure claimed. As another taxpayer-friendly measure, I propose to provide a limit of 1 year for disposing of petitions for taxpayers seeking waiver of interest and penalty. The Income Tax Department is also issuing instructions for making it mandatory for assessing officers to grant stay of demand once the assessee pays 15% of the disputed demand, while the appeal is pending before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. In case of deviations, the assessing officer has to take orders from his superiors. The tax officer also has an option to the superior officer in case he does not agree with conditions of stay order passed by the subordinate officer. In order to remove the backlog of cases, we are creating 11 new benches of the Customs, Excise and Service Tax Appeal Tribunal (CSTAT). The monetary limit for deciding appeal by a single member bench is proposed to be enhanced from rupees 15 lakhs to rupees 50 lakhs. I also propose to amend the Senvet credit rules 2004 so as to improve the credit flow, reduce the compliance burden associated litigation, particularly those relating to apportionment of credit between exempted and non-exempted final products and services. The amendments in these rules will also enable manufacturers with multiple manufacturing units to maintain a common warehousing for inputs and distribution of inputs with credits to the individual manufacturing units. Simplification and rationalization of taxation. The government has already accepted many recommendations of the Tax Administration Reform Committee, and I propose to accept a large number of recommendations of the Justice Ishwar Committee in this budget. To reduce multiplicity of taxes associated cascading and to reduce costs of collection, I propose to abolish 13 different cesses levied by various ministries in which the revenue collection is less than rupees 50 crores a year. To improve a cash flow position of the small taxpayer who get their funds blocked due to current TDS provisions, I propose to rationalize TDS provisions for income tax. The details are given in an annexure to this speech. Non-residents without PAN are currently subject to a higher rate of TDS. It is proposed to amend the relevant provisions to provide that on furnishing an alternate document, the higher rate will not apply. The facility for revision of returns hereto will be available to a service tax assessee only is being extended to a central excise assessee also. I propose to provide for an additional option to the banking companies and financial institutions, including non-banking financial companies, for reversal of the input credits with respect to non-taxable services provided by them by way of extending deposits and loans and advances. Our government has taken a number of steps to reduce the cargo release time and the transaction cost of exempt trade. I propose to amend the Customs Act to provide for deferred payment of customs duty for importers and exporters within the proven track record. In 2014-15 budget, I had announced the intent to implement Indian Customs Single Window project. We have made significant progress in this, and it would be implemented at all major ports and airports starting from the beginning of the next financial year. The custom baggage rules for international passengers are being simplified so as to increase the free baggage allowance. The filing of baggage declaration will be required only for those passengers who carry dutiable goods. Use of technology and creating accountability. Technology is a boon for mankind. We plan to use technology in the taxation department in a big way to make life simpler for law-abiding citizens and also for data mining to track tax evaders. A pilot was run in 2015-16 for e-assessments to obviate the requirements of taxpayers to visit the income tax office. I propose to expand the scope of e-assessments to all assessees in 7 megacities in the coming years. The case selected for scrutiny will be scrutinized in an e-environment where, unless the assessee himself wants to be heard or for special reasons to be recorded, the assessing officer wants to hear the party, there will be no face-to-face contact of the IT department and the assessee. Income Tax Department will fully expand the pilot initiative of e-Sahyog with a view to reduce compliance costs, especially for small taxpayers. The object of e-Sahyog project will be to provide online mechanism to resolve mismatches in income tax returns without requiring taxpayers to attend the income tax office. I propose that in matters pertaining to income tax, government will pay an interest at the rate of 9% as against a normal 6% in case there is a delay in giving effect to an appellate order beyond 90 days. The officers who delay it will be accountable for the loss to the government. I also propose to change the procedure to provide for a shift from physical controls to record-based control for customs bonded warehouses supported by sophisticated IT systems. Madam Speaker, my direct tax proposals would result in a revenue loss of rupees 1,060 crores, and my indirect tax proposals will yield rupees 20,670. Thus, the net impact of all tax proposals would be a revenue gain of rupees 19,610 crores. Madam Speaker, this budget is being presented amidst a global and domestic headwinds. There are several challenges. We see them as opportunities. I have outlined the agenda of our government to transform India for the benefit of the farmers, the poor and the vulnerable. Madam Speaker, it is said that champions are made out of something they have deep inside them: a desire, a dream, a vision. We have a desire to provide socio-economic security to every Indian, especially the farmer, the poor and the vulnerable. We have a dream to see a more prosperous India and a vision to transform India. With these words, Madam, I commend the budget to this House for acceptance.
The state militates against the atrocities of the Indian state. You teach a 6th standard child this. Are we shocked that when these children go to a university, they said Kashmir ki azadi tak jang ladenge?